VOS family members. Today, we tell God thank you. Today, na big day for the Muslim Ummah. I want to say Eid Mubarak to every Muslim. We, what the Muslim, them, the man and woman, and we, they know him will live for see this day also. We ask God, let He grant them the highest of the Jannah. Let He give them that. Especially the one that will be the fast, or they're doing the, the fasting night, and may Allah call them. Again, let He grant them the highest of the Jannah to Firdaus. We hope, the lead person for this program, so Madam Fadima, let God help her. He get buried again, like, last week, it will come. A very close relative of him, he passed away. Madam Titi Rogers, the mommy. And we know last week will come in Gyal Pikin, will be, can report say he died. So the mommy instead on that, you say that back to back. It's too much for Madam Fadima, because the way they go on, he hung up with all the people there. So, and the sisters and of the beginning of them, this mommy and they are Yema Rogers standing there, Marie Rogers standing there, they all with the console the accident called console them because it's like a heavy loss on it. This is like back to back. The sister will be the take care of the mommy don't go. Just less than a week or just within the space of a week, now the mommy said Allah take care. But Allah na heal. Job that no question. The only thing we will do, we will continue for pray for them. And by God power, that is salat. God will make it easy for them. And we will continue for console Madam Fadima. And we will ask him, let it take him. So God say. And we don't say, well, by God power, by next week, he will not get himself together. So he will be back there. Today, I dealt one of me distinguished leaders and well accomplished, attorney within the common all in North Carolina. Himself, now because of patriotism, now he make say they can't join there for low share knowledge, no all rock much discussions. We tell God thank you. We can call her, even though he busy, but because of the salon business, he put aside things there, can call it tomorrow. So and then for go to court, prepare paperwork and all that. But still, he put salon before we tell God thank you. And this is no other person than the distinguished attorney at law, Mr. Mohammed Shilon. I want to bring up in let's tell all I do, let's tell all the Muslim women I do. Let it meet all Ramadan Barak. So, Afa, you can kind of say Assalamu alaikum to you, sir.
Wa alaikum salam. Assalamu alaikum to everybody. Eid Mubarak, even though it's late in the evening, but in some other part of the world, if it's early part of the day, Eid Mubarak as well. I hope God accept with fasting and with blessing and with devotion and give we all the rewards or satisfaction or for the endeavor what we engage in for the past 1 month. So, and this goes for even with Christian brothers then and sisters and fathers and mothers who have been wishing us well, because until we have know, particularly from the Western area, but in the entire country, Australia, there always has been that traditional acceptance of each other's holidays. So even non-Muslims are always receptive. I had as much well wishes and Ramadan Mubarak from the Christian friends and relatives then as I did Muslims. In fact, maybe more so from the Christian friends then. So I hope God bless we all. I name Mohammed Shilan. I'm coming from Raleigh, North Carolina, and being a practicing attorney. I have been in the business for a little while, or for quite a while, or for a long time. So I'm here just for try for see what little light shedding one could do in terms of the way things are going in the country and how things can be improved. So I come on this show not believing that I have the knowledge. I'm on this show for join Professor Kuruma and Madam Fadima Savage, for let we all, including who would listen, for join with, for let we see how together we can come up with good ideas and hopefully try to make people in back home here with the one that will get the power. Okay. So with that, I go back to Professor Kuruma. Hope the program will be enjoyable at the end. Thank you.
Alhamdulillah. If I were to talk about you talk about Christian brothers before we can begin look at that Corona update. One thing we will credit Salone for, if anything else, Salone that plays with the spirit of ecumenism, where no other country no go beat them. We in the country we don't know whether a Muslim, we don't know whether a Christian. And you said go testify to the fact say they tell and they we most say we the Muslim we Christian brothers and sisters and the fellowship with we. They respect, we culture and tradition. There are a lot of activities when they put on hold just for support we identity, vice versa, where the Christians against something, the Muslims support. And for even the gravitas to that argument, you see Muslims and they might to Christian them, and they live in one accord. That if anything they were good about Salone, that kind of ecumenism, they me only hope as me if we get this kind of religious tolerance zone, wow, no, we just extend that the political right, that no more, that the really disconnect now or the dichotomy we let's say because we're so tolerant of the religious, how they call them. I don't know that a Muslim, don't know that a Christian, but in any case, by God power, somebody will get it. Which I want to do, I want to let the technical people and put that Corona updates. Let me you up small panny that because we now the president, as you know, the president don't order Senate they open, so it means the government don't go back. So we'll look waiting at the updates on Salone. So trouble that they will up small bit on the Corona generally. Most of so technical team will put that Corona updates let we see so that we view as and see so we'll get the statistics and know the death rate, the one that we don't affect or the one that we don't how you call it recover. So if we not get down, put it up for we let us see. So as the drive for put Mr. Shidon, I want to take the American angle of where the president does say they for open. They're not beginning to open the institutions. For example, the Muslim, the church there just this week they also necessarily open this weekend. So I want to Robert Pana in the context of whether in fact we don't medically ready now for being gets together again. I will not want to look at certain of political purposes. Because election they can what we hope city a very sincere thing because they don't shut down the economy of the country. You cannot shut it down. I mean that go hamburger maker. So why should you for the technical team for put that up? I want to work more by that side, the political aspect of it.
Well, as it is, we get all kind of I'm not gonna say conflicting medical information and as well as this fight for public relations. So, on the one hand, the president is saying places should open. On the other hand, the professionals, the experts, the virologists, the epidemiologists, then the claims say we forgo slow. Now small for move towards not for rushing to the whole process. Now, in fact. There is a third angle to this whole thing. I heard another group of doctors, and they sound very credible, who are even saying, well, they don't think, say, even the hand washing all the time. They claim, say, not good for we because we are getting rid of germs that are useful to us. I never heard that argument, but I was impressed with the argument. Then say, because indeed, there are things called bacteria, harmful bacteria and useful bacteria. And the useful one, then they say it, and then we get for help we build with immune system. So by us washing our hands all the time, in a way, this now, not to me unbelievable, this is just something I heard, that we may be diminishing we immune system and make ourselves more vulnerable to coronavirus in the future. And I say, well, we thought we had enough of the back and forth. Now there comes another angle. But what is impressive about the whole thing, and this is the kind of thing I wish we can establish in our own country, let it be intellectual, knowledgeable discussions among people who know what they're talking about. Because in my line of work as an attorney, we have a phrase, they say reasonable men can differ, you know? So we don't have to see things eye to eye, but if we engage in mutually respectable discussions, at the end of it all, we might pick some knowledge from each other. We will not be get before the discussion starts. This is the only thing that I wish back home, because back home, I'm not so sure if we follow policy as them people here, then they try for teach we for follow. But in America now, it seems like we are gradually moving into the normal way of doing things. And I like the fact that almost everywhere now, particularly grocery stores and public places, they are requiring people to wear masks. So they are opening stuff up, but they say, for your protection, you know, it is advisable that you wear my mask, me wear a mask, so that way, if me, what I use the phrase, asymptomatic, meaning if I get the disease, I might be asymptomatic and not even know, say, I am. But by me putting on my mask, it prevents me from spreading it to somebody else. And if that person they get a mask, it increases the person's ability for protecting himself. So I like the guidelines we would go by. I wish the government will allow, the American government will allow the CDC, who are supposed to be the epicenter of communicable disease control, if they can allow them, make them set the guidelines and not get any governmental interference, that would be a whole lot better. But so far, so good. I mean, well, the way, the approach way, and I like the American system of government, whereas for example, when the president say, in go order the governors then they come right back and say, wait a minute, we get a federal system. There are certain rights that are inherent rights of the states that you, the president, you not get the power for order the governors them for do anything, because the governor are almost like a president in their own state. They are the chief executive. So then the president back down. But this is the beauty sometimes about law and order, even if you get a president who has a tendency to go overboard. But because there are certain institutional guidelines in place, you know, it makes it so difficult for you to go overboard. And when you go overboard, you know the risk where you take by pushing the envelope. So these are some of the good things I like about the system. So the president can say what he wants, but he may not get what he wants. So then even within the states, there are certain rights delegated to the counties and the cities, you know. So the governor can give a blanket order for compliance, but there are different states get different laws with respect to the power of the mayor of a city and what the mayor can and cannot do. So the mayor not necessarily get for comply with the governor in order. it all depends on how the state constitution is written and how much power is given to the governor over local government. And local governments are like county government, city government. You know,
Okay.
so this is the beauty of it.
Thanks so much for that. I'm glad it, by God power, we'll forget to that. I see with technical people are not ready for that corona update, but anyway, we'll talk. Now, what's our we talk about though? I want to ask you a question. Last week we did talk about, say, the mistake or the regret we get the NPRC not be try for ban both of them all parties they are the UP they are the SLPP,
yes,
the APC. I want you a minute or two elaborate on that and then convince we say yes, ban in people are not been right, but then other them again we for come where would they get the new crop, the new generation of politicians because there's tendency for them. Well, let them go back and regroup when another party quickly then go regroup then. So I want to look at that possibility.
Yeah, well, they are the same guys will have gone into splinter groups, meaning they will have scattered. I don't think if they ban APC and SLPP, all APC they go form another new party and call on whatever. That will have created, in fact, because they will have set up regulations because you see, sometimes not for just give orders, you get to think through them. So the purpose can be accomplished. If the purpose was to break, it's just like this country. I'll give you a good example. Many years ago, it's like a monopoly. There was a time when the court give an order where they broke up when they call a Marbell, but Bells, the Southern Bell, where they be the dominant telephone company in the country. And they may get this monopoly now where them break them up and then with certain guidelines, now you give rise to Verizon, to Sprint, to T-Mobile, and all of that. And without that one attempt there to have broken up Marbell, if anybody would have there long enough, years ago, the telephone, you never own a telephone. The telephone belonged to the phone company. So the installer, if you move, then takes a left hand there because whoever moving there will take over that phone there. You know, they get you on phone. Of course, that was before cell phone. But somehow it was hindering progress until a special interest group, public interest group, actually, as we can call them, filed a lawsuit. Now, Washington, D.C., against Bell South for break them up. And as a result of them being broken up, we ended up having 5 or 6 telephone companies that were never in existence. Like I say, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, and all the other companies that were there. So the same thought process could have been put into, because you see, the purpose of breaking up, why I suggest that it would have been healthy for the country. It has nothing to do, because like I said to one of my letters then to you, I saw what happened in the 60s in the Eastern Province. I saw the loss of lives. I saw the reluctance on the part of SLPP for accept APC's rule. In the Eastern Province, it was almost an impossibility. If you even show any sympathy for APC, it was you lose your life. Okay, so there was a lot of massive violence. And this is first time thing I'm saying. This is not something I read about, because I know it happened. Salone district, and then Southern Province, like Pujon district, a lot of lives were lost. Until APC come in, since then the dog take over, then show some massive force of power and let the SLPP supporters in the area know. So that was the time when they come, even Upper Bambara Chiefdom, Penembu, Salone district, where I be there at the time. And they arrest the paramount chief, speaker of the chiefdom, a lot of other top guys there. I'm in mind and can't take everybody go Mafanta. So people begin for behave because the violence was high. Then fast forward, then APC come. They engage in misrule, treason trials, political shenanigans, all kinds of stuff. What APC do? Okay.
That just punctuate you under 1 minute, sir.
Yes, sir.
You don't inject a new element in this. We hopefully that they will be here for go, and with the deal that two angles that we take there. The first angle is there's a lot of controversy now going on because that what we use treason trial. So now I make a punctuate you. I want to inject another element into this. Okay. That's how we will expand on this. Quietly, as you know, there is a treason trial we will forget on the way, already on the way. Now, one of the defense lawyers, as you know, everybody said, I'm like country, you don't hold, dazzling area of offices in and out of the country. So you don't present you don't file a motion or whatever, you don't make objection at the court. So ironically, even the attorney general, competent, this is not to call local standing, not to call in law in the questioner. Local standing in the questioner. And then the principal prosecutor with an official. How the man not to, not be not registered any of the court. But the irony here, though, we don't understand. And Fisher obviously got hired by Joseph Kamara, now the Justice Department, and the Attorney General is herself. Now the President appoints a lawyer in the good side. So I wonder if I don't even want to talk about the 1991 Constitution, specifically Article 141, Section A and B, which if I address it, but I just want to look at this, the irony of contradiction on one man, we preside over major treason trials and then where people they lost their life now, but now they're on the other side, then another person will not step into your shoe now in the objection. So I want to let you explore the contradiction and irony in the answer.
Well, the best comparison I can give is that of Cyril Just Right.
Good.
As opposed to Fisher.
Yes, you just right. Good. Okay. And that we bring it. Good.
Yeah, because Cyril Just Right had been disbarred.
He's been disbarred, yeah. I know.
Okay. Stevens used in executive power.
Yes.
Install them by whatever means, and there is no evidence that procedures were followed. By reinstitute them back and get in license.
Yes.
And what we know, because Cyril Just Right had carried age then, there was no evidence then that he probably was the best prosecutor around or the best lawyer around, but he was quite reputable for underhanded kind of practices. In fact, that was one of the reasons why he lost his license.
Oh yeah, shenanigans. Yeah.
Okay. So, well, it seems there is precedent.
Yes.
So if Cyril Just Right was allowed to prosecute people then.
Yeah.
And the court accepted the prosecution, to which people even lost their lives.
Oh, how can you
well, which tells me there is some implied executive power delegated to the Attorney General, maybe the Chief Justice, or both, for make a special process to admit people who have not gone through the normal channel. Because if Cyril Just Right, through some special deal with the president, was able to come back and start practicing law, I don't see how the current president, Sierra Leone, lacks that same authority today.
Exactly.
Mr. Fisher. So when I say the president, not that the president himself directly, because what certain things the Attorney General does now by delegation of authority. So when he does it, it's somehow is the government that is doing it. And if now something we have to do with executive exercise of power, so me not see the big deal about disqualifying Mr. Fisher. And to me, there's not much substance to that. Okay, tactically, well, they can still keep Mr. Fisher in the prosecution team and make him not the chief prosecutor. So it changes nothing. It's because in talent will still, in contribution, can still keep the case going. Because the Attorney General's office that is prosecuting the case has the authority to put anybody in prosecution team.
Exactly.
Like paralegal or so I don't see. On the one hand, I can understand. Maybe from a defense counsel standpoint, you owe a duty to your client for defend the client zealously. So, because one of the requirements for a criminal defense lawyer, you have to defend your clients zealously. So, if Dr. Content and they come from that standpoint, there, I don't see substance in the argument. But if not for zealous defense, I can understand them bringing the points.
Thank you.
But I don't think it's going to solve anything.
No, it's not going to. If I agree with you. Thank you. Now, okay. Well, obviously, they can say, Mr. We don't address that issue yesterday and make a record. I bring the case of Rogers right today, because, like you say, Shakasiri is brought Rogers right for the first prosecute the Villansana. We, only a judge tried the case under Justice Foster, so he was convicted. He sentenced to 5 years again. Then he bring him back for prosecute Madam Ella Kobler and others. Do that case again. And then somewhere down the road, he left the thing. Then he go to Ireland. He carry the file go to Ireland. He left the people there in limbo. The people
which was grossly unethical, highly unprofessional. Highly unprofessional.
Go. You carry the file go. People in the land. That lady spent 3 years in jail. 3 years in jail.
This is where the system also, there should have been some mechanism in place.
Yes.
Whereby the defense attorneys should have been able to move for a mistrial.
Yes. That they can go to the
but I don't know whether they have mistrial procedure in Sierra Leone.
Oh,
we didn't get mistrial for inappropriate conduct of a juror, or on the part of the prosecution, or on the part of the judge. You can move for a mistrial.
Yes.
So under the American system, almost in all 50 states, Sir Rogers Wright will not have been able to go sit down with files for 2 years and people were languishing in jail.
Yeah.
But by Sierra Leone standard, he was able to do that. And these are some of the things I will hope, or I will have hoped, that we PhD holders do in the legal system. These are the things they should see and try for, make sure, say, it not happen again. The thing about the law, this is the thing I do not understand. It's like a vicious cycle. If you make law for affect one person, you better be sure you become a dictator and not left till you die. Because otherwise, that same law, they go catch up with you. Because you take like the current prison trial now. A lot of the laws then wouldn't pass under unless this weapon law.
Weaponizing the Constitution.
Okay. I think this weapon acceptance of going around with a weapon and this kind of thing came about as a result of some business people lobbying for them feel say they're unsafe, because Sierra Leone didn't need this thing about people carrying weapons. We shouldn't tolerate that. It's a slippery slope. But yet, they were able to convince Parliament for pass a law say you get a right for carrying weapons, then just prohibit certain areas where you can carry them. But we don't need to be carrying weapons, because the thing about, you can't pass a law for minister, then another law for poor people. So once you pass a law for, say, people have a right to carry weapons, or people are allowed to carry weapons in their cars. Well, that same law there applies to the poor man, the criminal also. So what's going to happen when the criminal gets a weapon and they go around for committing crime, for hold up people? So when you get the top brass in the country begin to say, oh, we feel insecure, we need parliament for give right for to go around and get gone, then they should have looked at the whole thing in a broader scale, you know? Because if that law did not exist, maybe Mr. Conte, I'm talking about Mr. Paulo Conte, may not have been tempted to even have a gun in his purse or pocketbook or whatever he was carrying. So I will hope that this serves as a lesson. Laws should be passed for posterity, for the future, for help the country. You can't be passing laws like how APC be to do just for affect one group of people as if they were going to be in power forever. And then these same laws exist, you know. And as far as I'm concerned, I am a big opposition to the treason laws as they are in the country, because treason is not like a traffic offense. Everything somebody does will get something for do with government if it be treasonous. This is serious business. They shouldn't trivialize. I think the legal system back home, then they trivialize the significance of the crime of treason.
Yeah.
Or the offense of treason, but they should take things a little more serious.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah. So they can't take a 2-3 minutes break quick. Then we welcome people. There are no people on the line. We welcome them. Then we get other areas that we'll get for young people. So let's take a quick commercial break. Then we'll come back and then we'll welcome people there.
All right.
Back to you guys in the studio.
Cottontree Pharmacy is your new trusted provider of pharmacy services in Sierra Leone. You can count on Cottontree Pharmacy for genuine quality brand name and generic medicines. Guaranteed refills for prescriptions issued by doctors in Sierra Leone or abroad. Door-to-door medication delivery service in Freetown and beyond. Free health education. Have you heard about our Diaspora Medicine Connect? With Cottontree Pharmacy's Diaspora Medicine Connect, anyone can pay for your prescription online. Bring your prescription to 17 Pademba Road. Collect an invoice. Send your invoice to your sponsor in the Diaspora. Your sponsor pays for your prescription online. We deliver your medication to you. For quality prescription and medications, visit Cottontree Pharmacy at 17 Pademba Road in Freetown. Have questions? Call our pharmacist on WhatsApp at 030-611-664 or visit our website at www.cottontreemedicalgroup.com. Come to Cottontree Pharmacy. We are ready to fill your next prescription.
Why do a website when you can create an app for your business for free? Yes, with Pav App Maker, you can make an app as easy as pie. It only takes a few minutes. Simply choose a design template you like, add the features you want, and once you are happy with the results, publish it to Google Play and Apple Store. So your clients can download your app. Go to tavappmaker.com and create your free app today.
Again, welcome to VOS Television with Fatima Savage. And like I say, unfortunately, Fatima not today, yet another day. But I know say do with we. And on behalf of VOS, we extend with sincere condolence to him. And we hope say next week we'll be again with we. Tonight, I did with me distinguished, well, one of the best and brightest guys. Is so much know-how for lay the law across for the layman for understand. Again, with the say Osh for Mama Rogers in Berlin. Which thing I want to do is the technical team, if I can put that corner for me again, then which I will do. Good. We don't see the corner update from Freetown. And obviously, we all this year, so did not for let it did it first like that, whilst at the talk. so that everybody will see a molecular you make it will be all man is here. Which thing I want to do, even as we look at the corona, I want me guest, Mr. Shilon, that he really tell me, say how we as a nation go come out with a judicial system in the country where go they in harmony with the legitimate aspiration of the citizen. And they said so, and they said those, and I should say Mr. Shilon will agree with me, say in any nation, waiting define a nation, waiting define them, that the rule of law will get carried out by the judicial system because it acts as the bastion of the constitutional liberties. When all else is failed, we will get problem with the government, we get problem with one another, the one who get for rely on the courts. But if we get a court system where we citizens will not get faith in them, and it can go. And the way how they look at the system, the judicial system, it's like it's more like politics, meaning you only quote some of the other institutions if that this government in power, now they intend for lead to us. I can give a quick example. APC may file cases in the court. They file cases in the court. But today will not know of the outcome of them cases. We I believe say they not hear them yet. But by the same breath, SFPB, the cases they don't go forward. I even know of a situation. In fact, we talk something just to I say, where you already make law, thinking that you don't ever come out the part, it will get for haunt you. Now, when you go back to Constituency 110, after they may not remove APC people in common Parliament, SFP can body Constituency 110 by the understanding that APC be winner. So waiting at the government do they decide to know proper election they go hold it. You see, because I think the person will come out and call I'm not an SFP person, so you know go put a number on a Parliament. So with this kind of a thing, so we they affect the conduct of the judiciary. I mean, they cast a poll on them. What two we will do for make sure say we judges are very independent at the risk of talking, say they play like within, especially the as you said you follow the Chief Justice. The Chief Justice is not actually being selected by the government every day. You get a body, corporate body, where they sit down. Now then they make all the articles. Now recommend no money go and take care out of change the names when they put forward to the Prime Minister. Now they take and then inform that to the Queen for approval. So they actually see the independence of it. So how you think say we will get a judicial we're very proud of that? Especially way that they would you remit law run with two and CISA.
Well, we in North Carolina, let me just use the state level process. When there is a vacancy, what normally happens, the Bar Association and the State Bar, because we get several lawyer organizations, but we in North Carolina, the State Bar, now in the control we activities. But then there's another group called the Bar Association. So it's an association of lawyers, but they know not to then control with license and with ethical behavior and the State Bar the controller. But normally what happens when there is an opening, because there's so many models we can look at. Okay, North Carolina model is when there is an opening, whether or not the district court level, way back home the equivalent will be magistrate court, or superior court level, where the equivalent back home will be high court, or the Court of Appeals, or the Supreme Court. What normally happens, then they announce them to all members of the bar that there is such an opening. And then whoever has an interest for an appointment in that position, then you send in your name. And if there are many people, what we normally do, then you can set up a date. Let's say there are 20 people for one opening. the Bar Association, they conduct the state bar, they conduct an election. And they set a date, then they send to we all and say, we elect, or they try to send 5 names to the governor. So anybody who is interested, because there are 20 people who are interested in this position, therefore, we will conduct an election. The top 5, their name will be taken and sent to the governor, among whom the governor will choose 1 person. Now, it's quite possible that when those 5 names go in, maybe there are activities backdoor by which somebody will influence the governor, but generally speaking, that's how it's done. And then the governor will look, all these 5 whose name will be sent to the governor, they are very well qualified for the position. So now we don't vote for them. So we then get a lot of respect among members of the bar. So when the governor chooses one of them 5, then nobody has any qualm about that person there. Because if you not be qualified, the state bar will not even allow you for run. Let's say if you get some kind of issue, such as drug problem, drinking problem, those kind of thing, if there is a rumor out there about that, the state bar will not recommend you. Then the same thing that happened at the federal level with the American Bar Association, they send recommendation whether you qualified, unqualified. So we can adopt a system by which we not necessarily, because unless we come up with a system where the president not to go for appointment.
Yeah, okay. Let's just put it here. Yeah. I see the inherent danger in this. Mostly we try for nationalism. Ironically, in a Salone, we really pathetic, and we make believe that it is service to the country. The Bar Association also they function on partisan line. You get APC, win Naya, you get them win Naya. When they come up, when we were coming up, when we looked at the Bar Association, the guys who we are members of the Bar Association, I mean, these are men and women of unassailable integrity. These are men and women who were committed and dedicated to the canons of that profession there. These are people with very unquestionable integrity. People who stood up to the establishment, who stood up to the politicians. APC coming into power, I must say this, was as a result of the resolve of the Bar Association. I could relate to an incident where Dr. Magna Carta was manhandled. The entire Bar Association stood up to his defense. That was the very first time Sheikh Stevens wall was on the back. When they stood up as a formidable force. Because the thing is, they are all committed to the principles of that noble profession, the law. Yeah. They are the ones who we rely on. They serve as the ethical foundation and moral compass for the very existence of the society. So, but when you have a situation where the Bar Association sees itself as an apex or as a satellite of a government, that becomes fundamentally troubling, to say the least. So, with that, I'm wondering how we'll be able to fashion out, an institution that upholds the human sanctity, the human freedom within the context of such a noble profession. So,
well, this is what I would say to that. Rules, regulations are not science. So we'll not get any specific formulas to go by. After a certain point, you get to rely on the belief that certain people would think of what you are trying to achieve and will gravitate towards that. Because at the end of the day, rules are abstract, not to like laws of gravity, for example. The law of gravity.
God goes up, comes down.
Yeah, and it's the same all over. In China, in Russia, in Freetown, it doesn't change. But laws are not those kind of laws, you know. So they vary, and so many things they impact laws, custom, tradition, you know, environment, circumstance. So it's a lot of things jumbled together for make one effective process, a process with the work. So it takes a lot of mindset. This is the reason why you don't make laws for affect a group of people. You don't make laws for affect you adversaries. You for make laws for promote orderly conduct among the citizens or the citizenry. So the purpose have to be understood. You know, the purposes there have to be understood. Because if we don't understand the purpose for making the laws, then we are heading in the wrong direction. It's just like when you get in a vehicle for go on a trip. You want to know your beginning point. You just don't want to say, well, I know to put my GPS on. I drive first 20 miles before I decide if not north or east or west I go. You don't, you know. So when you want to make laws, you get to think the general impact, you know, the possibility of enforcement, because laws are worthless if they cannot be enforced. And they can only be enforced if you have trained set of, because the legal profession doesn't work by itself. You need the enforcement aspect of it, which goes over to the police. Lawyers, judges don't arrest people. They can only issue papers asking people to come to court. So with police, you see, this is a teamwork. The police need a lot of retraining. In the old days, in the colonial days, things were very orderly, but too much politics has been injected into the system. And it does nothing but counterproductive of, it defeats all the purpose. So it's about time. These are not things that are beyond we control, because it's like a car. Unless we make sure, say, the car gets good tires, not the smooth tires, unless we make sure, say, there is enough fuel in the vehicle, unless we make sure, say, the transmission fluid, the brake fluid, the engine oil, all these things are in place, that car is not going to give you the service where you need. It's the same thing. It's time, the system can work, because I always liken Sierra Leone to Singapore, Malaysia. These are countries that were once much less.
All right, let's just hold you right here. Yeah. Let's take the first caller, and then we'll come back here. Caller, good evening. This is the social media review today, dealing with laws and everything. Who's the call for me? What's your name, please? Caller, you there on the line? Caller, who's the call from? What's your name? All right, the caller don't lose the caller. We'll come back to him. Let me continue, Mr. Shilon. I want to take you to another area quick, because we're going to juxtapose the arguments and we go in and out, because this is a really general discussion with the whole today. What's in our do? Salone, as you know, from 1826 or 1827, one of them today, has been known as the place, especially for the college, saying that we the anthems of education, as you know, emblematic with Phoebe College, that used to be the, an affiliate of Durham University. May you know, say that this country has what you call relics or monuments or they get some building there with historic preservation. If you go to Eastern, Clienttown, you see the old Fube College. You know, if you say the president, they talk about quality education in order to we start to point for beyond that, then they bring them up in such a way that because what you want to do, we want to highlight the fact, say, this is where education started. This higher education when they talk about these anthems of Africa, this place where educate a lot of African people there. Start now. You know, if you say that place in the forward in such a way in the mega, when we talk about mega improvement, yeah, if it's that we will act as we in fact we will act as America they call them
these are historic monuments.
Monument already. You don't think say Nazada, I mean, how you look into this? How you look into my argument?
Well, let me just give you my experience about that building there. I never knew, I had never seen the building until 2006. I was in Freetown and I had gone to Watakee to get something out. Then I was given a piece of paper for going to one building out of the main Watakee area for go pay. As I was upstairs, now somebody point out to me the building where you refer to, saying that the first private college down one day. My response to the person was, you got to be kidding. It can't be. Because at the time when they showed me the building, then the two dirty inside there, all kind of grass and everything there inside. I said, what? This will never happen in America or European countries. The building that had the name Frabe College is being abandoned as a dumpster. I couldn't believe it. And this is a disappointment. Because if there is a principle for Frabe College, now your duty down there for make sure say that building there is preserved as a historical monument. Now your duty down there for make sure say whoever attend Frabe College at least once throughout the period of time when they attend that university, they can come to see where this higher learning started. At least once we need to know, people need to know, say, this is the building that started it all to be called Athens of West Africa. And I also learned to say, because I always wonder why Frabe College they up in Mount Oriel. But then it turned out that it's Frabe College because the building was in Frabe. So it was called Frabe College. And then when the whites then decide for transfer up, they kept the name because they didn't want to change the name. They could have called it Mount Oriel University. They could have called it Mount Oriel College, but they felt it was the university and like grammar school. What grammar school moved from Frabe Road to present location, still keep the name. When collegiate, they moved from Musa and Bedade, they keep. So that's what they did with Frabe College and just keep the name, even though it was in Mount Oriel. But these are some of the things that we begin for cherish with history, you know, historic buildings. You know, I always, for example, I always had an idea about the current courthouse, now Freetown, the main courthouse. Well, that building, they don't outlive in usefulness. You know, even appropriate to conduct any major trial anymore. You know, central air, you know, get elevators. There are several things wrong with the building. At the time the building was built, it was probably very appropriate. So I'm not recommending that the building be demolished, but here is a country that doesn't have any, what I would call impressive museum. That could become a museum that could be modified and turn out to a museum and build a modern courthouse up Tower Hill, New Englandville, where government gets a lot of land, and so on. So, but we're not thinking progressively. Everybody comes, you go to the Chief Justice in Australia in office, back home in the state chambers, they get a window units of air conditioning, all window units. And you can't see outside because the place is almost dark. Okay? Well, what are we going to do? Are we going to wait for Whitman for till we say we don't outlive that process? The judges are climbing stairs. There are no elevators. And Sierra Leone foresee we lack of progressive thinking. And please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think Sierra Leone get any building where get escalators. Not even the parliament.
Exactly. Not even the parliament.
What kind of, I mean, what you know problem? We not get, we parliament not get escalator. We parliament from way till a Woodrow Billa. In the 50s, late 50s, it has not been expanded. It has not been modernized. You know, we have to do better. I mean, this is not how a country progresses. We really get for put some skin in the game, as the Kisinaya, because we just can't keep just maintaining mediocrity and expect to get some big dividend in the end.
I think so. We don't get the caller. Don't come back. Caller, what's their name? What's the call for, please? Hello.
Hello. Good evening.
Yes. What's the call from? What's their name, please?
Yes. This is Patrick Sovi, a Sierra Leonean, currently based in Boston, and I decided for call and forgive me only to input part the discussion. All I get, we're very, very educating and entertaining. Hello.
Yeah, will they listen? Where?
Yes, like I tell the landlord lawyer Anthony Shilon plenty. Thank you for your input. And Sierra Leone, I can go straight to the laws. You ask some question whether what make people allow people to forget for carry arms in Sierra Leone. And not forget that Sierra Leone emerged from a war-torn country. We don't get a decade of 10 years of war, and we began the disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration program, where they be try for disarm all the ex-combatants then. And they tell that the weapon they be bokuna their hand they try for disarm them. And by and large, as at 2012, Sierra Leone, now a member of ECOWAS and United Nations, they will decide to form the National Commission of Small Arms, which was established by an Act of Parliament in 2010 to control the proliferation, illicit possession and use of small arms and light weapons in Sierra Leone. And the Commission, they established in compliance with Article 24 of the ECOWAS Convention on Small Arms and Light Weapons. So now they not only in Sierra Leone, but they across the whole of ECOWAS country then, for them to curtail the proliferation of arms, small arms and light weapons, where they in line with global best practices of the United Nations Convention of Small Arms and Light Weapons. So the ammunition and other related materials, where they part of the law because they don't come to Parliament and attribute the Gazette number if they want. So now they get the law they did. So because of that, hello? Hello? Oh my God. Hello?
Yeah, we listen, sir.
Yeah. So because of that, the Sierra Leone National Commission of Small Arms started in 2003 as the National Focal Committee on Small Arms within the Ministry of Defense. And in 2004, that National Committee they moved over to the Office of National Security, what they call ONS, under the Office of the President. And later, that same office they transferred into the Directorate of Small Arms and Light Weapons. And the director and deputy they can get appointed through by President. And Parliament passed now law and a bill for establish Sierra Leone National Commission of Small Arms. And light weapons, we mark the transformation of the directorate into the present commission. So that make you get that commission there. So you get rules and conduct. You ask other questions as to whether Adrian Fisher and a lawyer or whether he get a local standard for practice law in Sierra Leone. And I'm glad the way the landed lawyer talk about precedent. They go to the call the racial dissident in law when are the reason for his decision. And Adrian Fisher now one of Sierra Leone's best criminal defense attorney and lecturer. A lecture may happen for benefit from intitulate a lecture in a Fabi College where they study law. I currently do my PhD. And Adrian Fisher be done turn former magistrate in Sierra Leone, and he be get a case with the government where he be later win. And Adrian Fisher na barrister at law and na the only Sierra Leonean lawyer where we know about we get a master's in e-communication laws, telecommunication law where I know about currently. And you get, however, you also the misunderstanding the Canada for let you practice law in Sierra Leone, they get the Council of Legal Education and the Legal Practitioners Act of 2002, where get a conduct, where get na the body where they make somebody practice law in Sierra Leone. And let's not forget, they will get the dual system of law. Sierra Leone, they call you barrister and solicitor. And the one they hold in England, you know, say when in a barrister, you always go advocate in a court. When in a solicitor, you the solicitor to the office job there, now your office. But however, then you also get the Legal Practitioners Act and Legal Education Act. Now that body they now they're responsible for appoint and the conduct of somebody turn lawyer in Sierra Leone. But however, to every rule there are exceptions. And this lawyer, the Council of Legal Education has been established under the Legal Education Act number 26 of 2012 with the twin primary purpose of promoting legal education and training and the maintenance of the highest possible standard in legal education provide for the Sierra Leone guarantee under the Legal Education Act. And most looking at the problem the council lawyer they talk in Sierra Leone, we get beaucoup people that can able for whether they can interpret now or the different they for suit your comfort. We're very, very bad. And you get like what the Legal Education Act and Legal Practitioners Act they say, if you talk say now nobody they're no more responsible for let somebody to lawyer in Sierra Leone. But however, they say a law analogous if you don't practice law in other countries, in other jurisdictions, we're similar to Sierra Leone like for a period of 5 years, then if the government deem it fit say you qualify, then they can waive. Even when you don't go to law school, then the government can hire you for them to turn a consultant for them. When they currently they happen with Adrian Fisher. Adrian Fisher is a barrister at law in England. He don't practice law in England for more than 5 years. And he don't turn magistrate, a city magistrate in Sierra Leone. Wait, one of the things that you do before you turn magistrate in Sierra Leone, you get for sign the register at the rule of court. And the law business so complicated in Sierra Leone that you can decide for let law school first. Like I mean, maybe they talk to us so not go law school because we get problem with regard admission, whether count law whenever exist. And I decide for can do my masters and according to the
unfortunately you turn on answer. We tell you thank you for the lectures. I mean really they in place with only that time. Let's see if we get another caller for Leone. Mr. Salone, I get another area where I go and take you to. They're going to say today and get that discussion.
No problem. You have a whole lot. You call me later, or you have a call back.
Yeah, later. Mr. Salone, no, we will get to that. I want to bring you to another thing. You were very critical at Salone. We also, where people they tend for look at as scans and at this question of maintenance culture at Salone. Very important. The lack of them. The White House now is over 200 years old. I will just give you that as an example. But every day we drive past like a new building they put up. But in Salone, the greatest problem we get now a lack of maintenance, either in terms of buildings, in terms of transportation, in terms of equipment. we believe say all things that for just go buy new one name for do this. So what will be your talk about, the lack of maintenance and cultural side of the lack of that, how you do this?
Well, let us start off like the background picture of Usai you the broadcast from right now the State House, Sierra Leone. That building they, or I think they call it Fort Taunton.
Fort Taunton, yeah.
It's a fort, and I've been there. Very impressive building that was built so many years ago. Now, it was designed to be both a residence and administrative building, just like how the White House did, just like how Buckingham Palace did, just like how a lot of state house buildings them exist in other countries. Because when Sir Maurice Dorman, the last white colonial governor, the day under, I mean, that's where they lived. Mm-hmm. That's where people came to work.
Yep.
And like Buckingham Palace, like the White House, like so many other people, nowadays, in fact, the residence of the president is also a tourist area. Then the Buckingham Palace, if you go to England right now, there are areas they let the public go into. They just don't let you go into the Queen's quarter, residential quarter. But there are areas. And if you go Scotland, where the Queen is also the Queen for Scotland, and so there is another official residence there, another palace sort of. They allow visitors. They're part of the tourist attraction. People and the take all around. But so now we get to make the best of what we have. For Taunton, also, I get an underground passage all the way to Kinjimi. That's the way they construct that place there. It seems to me if we were thinking progressively, by now, okay, I don't know whether Fort Taunton get elevators. Maybe, maybe not. But if it doesn't, what would you talk about maintenance? It needs to be modernized, because this is where I think the president still works from. So what's wrong with modernizing it? Put escalator, put elevators, bring her up to 21st century standard. I don't know where we get this idea from, that once a road is made, maintenance is not important. Once a building is built, maintenance is not important. Not to say the Whitman land, we will not learn from them. I just don't understand. I call that recklessness. I call that irresponsibility. Because even by way of culture, despite the poverty, we learned for, say, cleanliness is always important. Even as poor as you can, you wash things before you eat them, a lot of things. So I don't understand the practice, why we just not get interest in maintenance. And we have that in our educational system too. Because like I said before, in America, I don't know for England, but I'm almost certain they have similar practice. When you become a lawyer, you not learn all the book and that's it. You are required to take continuing legal education as long as you are active practitioner. Because things change. In medicine, the same thing, medical science changes. So you're required to take continuing medical education every year. For we in North Carolina, you get to do a minimum of 12 hours. You can pick the subjects, how to defend your client, how to prosecute a case, how to handle the civil complaint, rules of evidence, of course. But there are things coming up all the time. Now, so I don't know.
I just complete you and tell you so that call very quick. You'll come. Caller, which your name and also the call from, please.
Actually, Miller Anthony. I call from Hong Kong.
Okay.
Hello, Mena Auntie. I work from Hong Kong. I call from Hong Kong.
Okay.
Actually, Kudubu, thank you very much. This program, not been the actually.
Caller, you still on the line? All right, we don't lost the caller. Mr. Shilom, I want why would we forget another caller? I want ask
Hello?
you for...
Yes. Sorry, I just went off. Thank you very, very much for this program. Really appreciate them. And then I thank also the lawyer, because really I'm very, very impressed, because they actually shows a well vast, and they really get the experience. So I really appreciate the input this program here. And I just got a few questions, because really many times we blame the government for a lot of things then. But what I don't realize, we get a lot of Sierra Leoneans expertise them way they out of the country. Where if then guys that decide to come together today and go back now Sierra Leone and bring their various expertise them, believe you me, if they really put in the effort, Sierra Leone will change it at the blink of an eye. So, for example, as the lawyer Billy talk, they look at for example, the discipline of the judicial system, then continuing, so something kind of in mind. So why not the lawyers, now the diaspora, come together and formulate a blueprint and try for make sure they incorporate them into the constitution, so that the lawyers in Sierra Leone will follow that blueprintly. And that blueprint, therefore, develop them based on best practices around the world. Not for go back to then archaic with Nicolan. Best practices. Yeah, and I'm sure you understand all the system where they happen at the US thing. So why not maybe copy some of them different best practice from different part of the world, and then make a powerful guidelines for lawyers then for follow. That's one. And then also number two, they talk about maintenance culture. We're actually my area now civil engineering, and me say this area now area we are really can become very, very disappointed really at we maintenance culture, with lack of maintenance culture. Because the last time I go to Sierra Leone, visit like the UG building, for example, the building that fall apart. You go to a commercial building, I specifically take photograph of them buildings there, because I know say, them buildings there now, government offices and iconic buildings, even like a post office, if people like say post office, they almost become like a newspaper storage area. It was really very disappointing. So yes, these are issues where I feel say we in the diaspora were able to play a role. So what me go want, in a way already don't get this cloud, try to create a platform where you go get diaspora input, because this, we're not going to just blame the government. This now we all know, we all get is taken to the whole thing. Because me in particular, I'm beginning to be a little bit fed up, living abroad. And then we now all aware of this full big business where they go on China, even Europe, all over the place is there. It's about time for we don't get the experience, then we try to go back and help a country. So I just want the lawyer input into this. Thank you very much.
If we don't get any other caller, Mr. Shino, okay, we get another caller. So if I was to ask you for, we begin to take notes of the question, because things will happen at 10:30. What we will do, we'll open, we will make sure. Because today we tell you I'll extend the program to 11 o'clock. Normally at 10:30 for London. So that from 10:30 to 11, the questions the number will come in. So that way we don't give we participate in the chance for them also participate. Caller, who said the call from me, which name, please? So, Mr. Shilo, begin the question.
Oh, Mr. Kutubina, they call from New Jersey.
Yes, sir. Welcome.
Okay. Yes. Before I talk, I get the question for the legal luminary in the panel. I want to know where I confused because me not a law person and I never do law. I don't know, but I don't know without the confusion. But when they say they get the 3 branches of government, una co-equal branch, and then for me we go to call separation of power. So why is it that if we get to talk about separation of power, where the president, then the head of the executive branch, they appoint the head of the judiciary, is that any separation of power they under? We they see where the Attorney General they work for the president, where we not get no checks and balance on the side of the judiciary branch. They see the government interfere in everything. Is there any separation of power in that, or there is any co-equal branch? The same goes to the legislation branch. We they see also this SLPP parliament we get. We see the president appoint the clerk when the parliament is for start. Now in right appoint the clerk before even the parliament can session. So why is it that the executive, the head of executive, then they appoint people to a key position at the other branch of the government, but they say we get separation of power. So I want to know why is that, or is that a principle as so that they operate? And 2, we also see the present and the 4th estate where now the press and the civil society in Sierra Leone, they all know the work, because if we get the 4th branch of government, the media and the civil society, they all know the work anyway. So there's no checks and balance anyway. So the government can do whatever it want to do. It can want to interpret the law to union, and nothing, no checks and balance. So that's my question, Mr. Kutubu. Thank you very much.
Over to you, Mr. Shilo. If you're not getting a over to you.
All right. With respect to the blueprints, what the young man suggests, it makes sense, because sometimes this is the reason why shows like this can bring out, because ideas now they come always from the best and the brightest. Ideas sometimes they come from just common sense, and it can be from the least expected areas. The blueprint where the young man they talk about, I take it for be something like collaboration with the legal system back home. Now, I think in my previous appearance on this show, I mentioned how many years ago we formed an organization of Sierra Leonean lawyers in the United States. And it was a nationally based group of lawyers who originally came from Sierra Leone. Not even lawyers, because there was another generation of lawyers who were born here of Sierra Leonean parents. But I'm talking about people like me and some others who actually were born and raised and went to school back home. So we formed an organization. It was very broadly based. You have people from Alabama, California, Mississippi, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, South Carolina. I mean, we're very broad-based. And we tried for collaborate or for liaison with the Bar Association back then. In fact, at the time it was Commissioner Lee, the ambassador. Lee was the ambassador, and he too is a lawyer. So he welcomed the idea. Most of our meetings took place in Washington, D.C. at the embassy. The embassy was always open to we. And what happened? We tried for let them know, look, we get a fairly advanced system now. We want to make sure, because there are a lot of things where the system overhand and lack. We want for modernize, update, bring the legal system to international standard. We try for make them know, say, for example, just for those giving an example, if you conduct a trial in Australian court, let's say a trial that lasted like a month, or like a treason trial. Okay, now we own system now every state, you get a stenographer who takes down word for word everything that's been said by the judge, by the witnesses, by the lawyers, everything, all the entire proceedings. And then if the defendant loses and he wants to appeal, then the defendant and the state, with the assistance of the judge at the trial, will ask the stenographer to produce the entire trial transcript. And then with that trial transcript, each side, the defense, then go through, since that the defense, they appeal, the defense will point out certain things where they want for, because you get for create what you call the appellate transcript, because the appellate court don't want to read the entire trial proceedings. So now you, when they appeal your case, you claim certain irregularities took place at the trial that caused you to lose or your client to be convicted. It could be a question of law. It can be a misstatement of facts. It can be a combination of both. It could be inappropriate conduct or comment from the judge, what prejudiced the jury. It could be an inappropriate conduct of the jury, taking something to the jury room that they were not supposed to. But you put all your record together, and then you and the prosecutor will agree. They won't agree. When I go to the judge, we'll try the case, say this is what we propose as the record on appeal. Then the judge go, this would talk, the judge in chambers or the judge in office, then it will sanction that as the official thing. But everything that took place in that trial. Now in Sierra Leone, judges take a lot of handwritten notes. And the note of the judge generally becomes the record on appeal. Well, if I'm trying a case, what may be important to me, or what may be a legal error on the part of the judge may not be considered by him. He may not even make that part of his notes. So defendants are very, very highly prejudiced, by just the system itself, because your record on appeal is based on what the judge and the notes that the judge took and what he considered to be important, relevant. He's not a stenographer, so he doesn't take down everything. So she sought the system. Now, so we inherit them. Should we keep it as it is? For someone like me who has seen a better system, should I advocate that it's in the best interest of justice that the system be improved? Well, these are some of the kind of things that we try to tell the Bar Association back home. They never took us seriously. Never. They never took us seriously. When the last Constitutional Committee met under Anes Kuruma, President Kuruma, they get this thing about the one do. They're always messing with the Constitution. Always. Okay. We let them know. In fact, I will send that letter to Professor Kutubu, make you see the letter we'll write. Write the bar. We'll write the commission. We'll say, hey, there are Australian lawyers in the United States who would like to make an input, either as friend of the group or if we want to input. No response. They ignored us completely. So the problem is endemic. The mentality of people has to change, because this is what our problem is. We are just against change, and we don't have progressive thinkers, and until then, we will keep spinning with wheels. We are not going, like Americans will say, we ain't going nowhere.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you so much. I get two major things, and like I said today, we extend this program to 11 o'clock. So I get two major things so I go and talk about. Then we left the line open now. We will just sit down and wait for calls then and see if the people will come. one area where I don't know if we get call. Well, we get two calls. As a matter of fact, our first caller, who said he come from a waiting name, please. Welcome to the social media review. One area where I don't know if we get call.
Hello.
Caller, I think you get something they play at the background. Maybe we got them small, so we hear you.
Yes. Hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
Hello. Yeah. When I get me now.
Yes, please.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Me and Ezekiel. I call from St. Louis, Missouri.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. We hear you. Go ahead. We hear you.
Oh, all right. Okay. Yeah. I don't follow this program closely. A very interesting program. I want to thank Big Brother with Daddy, the legal luminary by you, Professor. I want to thank him very much for all in time we can take for educate the young one them when they come up. We can learn about what they get back from them. A more important. Now looking at the Constitution of Sierra Leone, from everything we done they happen. You know, when we they listen, people their contributions, where they camp like independence, all man they say the country not they move, they move nowhere. Waiting tie we down because there are a lot of things like where the legal luminary just say. We seem to be against change because a lot of things in the inside with constitution we're supposed to give way for make changes occur, but it not they happen. Number one, I want for said clearly the time where they write the constitution and put, for example, the criteria where somebody needs for become a member of parliament, the criteria set for somebody where for become a president. Those days where the constitution be that particular constitution they be write them, looking at the country at that time, looking at everything in terms of education, population, development globally, you go look at the standard at that time. But now look at the way the world they move faster in terms of education, in terms of improvement, in terms of information. And yet we have a constitution where they tell you say somebody for be a member of parliament, for be somebody where they at Becker level, for example. Becker level. Let we take Salone education standard for now, for example. And this don't really humble we because where are they talk about this? They talk about the representation of the bulk of Sierra Leoneans. The bulk of Sierra Leoneans, not the parliamentarians are very important to them because not them supposed to be the mouthpiece of the ordinary Sierra Leoneans, them, not that parliament. What you make would they see a lot of backlash or incitement from them parliamentarians and politicians to youth them out on the streets. We know they see this they happen in places like the United States and other places. The simple reason is that they don't know or they're not get the capacity and the ability for articulate things in the well of parliament. Instead they let the well of parliament come out, they begin incite young people that will not go demonstrate, will not go do this. And that is not how the opposition should fight. That is not how politicians should take on issues. Now, we understand, say, anywhere there's government, we can understand that they're not normally, this is true for every place, even in the United States or England or wherever. They're not they go according to how everybody wants the government things to run. But for maintain checks and balances, like Salone, where we get multi-partisan politics where they play there. I think say all the political parties represented there. Suppose if they really know the nitty-gritty of what they inside under for. But if they say somebody when they at the level for go interpret a clause, one clause in that constitution, where you know even able to understand what it means. All them go do, them go say I concur. So now one of the things that we don't pay we did today. So this is very crucial for me. I don't advocate on this on plenty forum for see that the constitutional changes will for happen. Let them take cognizance of decide way for giving the criteria them for who that for be with parliamentarians and who that for even be president. Let them review them silently. The other thing where I don't look at critically then they said why we all they say Salone not the move, like somebody talk about with mentality. Like corruption, I be don't they argue that not only the monetary misappropriation, because when they talk corruption, no one they all my attention they run. But me always they look at the damage where corruption don't cause to the brains the brains of people in that country, with thinking ability in that country, and it don't come from generation to generation. We have to be very, very magnanimous at this time for stand up, for let we able to debunk some of them things there, so that we give space to the upcoming generation, for let them able come up in a very good atmosphere free of corruption.
Thank you so much.
Especially that way, therefore, do with attitude. And it don't invite so much in with attitude. Now this make.
Thank you so much for your contribution. Yeah, not take it. One more caller, then I two things said to you. Then I can say, you know, I'm at 10:30. What we go do now? We go left the line at so question in one we take. We'll left the line open from 30 to 11 o'clock. Next caller, please let it call from which name. In the meantime, good evening.
Mr. Kutubu, Mr. Shilon, una good evening and una thank you. I call from New York.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So, mistake on this one whole thing, you know, Mr. Shilon, they try to let you able to analyze everything to we. The question the first caller talk, say why the legal department then will come together and push forward some changes then where it necessary in a Salone. And somebody come back again, they talk about different things. Salone governments them, now a drunken sailors them. And where they are drunken sailor in boat, you don't know outside the slum. That's my number one. The maintenance I want at the talk, look for Abbey College, where them build 1827. Go look that building there right now. People they shoot drug inside. They drink alcohol there. Now they sell poyo. Now they do everything. See where them for maintain, where they encourage tourism. People and they wouldn't go and go visit that place there. Say this is not the first university, this is not West Africa. That mentality there in that day. Una they abroad. Una come together, say, la una go to make some changes and they take una as a threat. Now that make, they now want to let the people and realize nothing inside Salone today. The neighboring countries then, some other tribes then, they come out in a neighboring country then now they can dominate with young people them inside Salone. Today, Salone man they able to talk. You know they able to do nothing. Where the other caller himself say, people then with Beke, then get right for town election. We get beaucoup educated people in there. We get doctors then. We get PhD holders then. Can you imagine a minority government na select the chair of the parliament where Jumokela go on top the other 10? Mr. Bundu bin the tell them and they say let it show up. Can you imagine? So that's not tradition. That's not way down there. The only thing now we talk about the way we will be able to solve problem then. Because the problem then now we will explain them. Now a ledger we're not be able to done for explain them. So we'll try bring things them up, the changes them we will make. We'll try to teach the youth them say that whole day whether the vision and that not to better road. Because right now you go to colleges them, you ask any student today, they will tell you say let yourself dollar get place society they get in Mamikoka. That mentality they don't install them in we youth them and then they're not good. So all this generation, anybody where ask now that mentality you get. Because all the head of the government there, now that work they mind they do. So Mr. Shilon, thank you. Continue your good job. Mr. Kutubu, you too, you know, a wonderful guy. You know, law will bring solution. Law try to teach yourself each other solution. The differences that we will make back in our country. The youth that they listen with, I believe they don't go pick plenty sense on waiting with they try to talk now. Thank you so much. So on your own contribution that.
Thank you. Mr. Shilon, hold on. I get two things that I want to bring to your attention. I want to address we dispatch. Then like I say, I will take them to 10:30. Then I give you the opportunity now for answer all the questions then. Why is the line open? Two things, one of the first thing I did, the youth in Salone, the youth in get we will talk say, now we future leaders in there, they mean abused, misused, and done. Salone not a place where for the complaint of hunger because we get arable lands. Okay. We get all kind of crops that God give me. we may believe say if the governments, this is not to just one particular governments, if they get a foresight, they invest in the youth other than waiting in the tell them, forget caught up in political violence and all that type of thing. You know, believe say if the government say must say they go now every district, they invest in agriculture they, in such a way that inside the places they go, we could able to process real materials that they get. You know, if you say we will be an export-oriented country, you know, especially if they make available, because these youth in the future, they don't get place for day. They all even the crime not high. Now we get all the kind of problem here because they simply are not doing anything. And then politicians, then they use them as pawns. Me really feel say they abuse the youth them. But there's another way we'll be able to put the youth them to very good use. Like Salone, you know, go from district to district, all the district there. We set up major agriculture. We bring one man at the show, I named Dr. Ture. We bring another. That man, then at the outskirts of McKinney, at the village Iko. That man, you know, involved in agriculture, involved in tourism, involved in education. The man already, even in ecumenical business, involved in, you know, most church, even involved in most say he set up a medical clinic outside McKinney, inside the village. We'll be bringing that. So, what will be your opinion about how best we can use their youth them as opposed to the kind of bacteria who see they do, they involve in political violence, thuggery, and all that thing. How you think the politicians that will address we use them? That's the first question. That as soon as you know there, I get the last question before go to 10:30 for open up. So go ahead and address the role of the youth. Who's role if you say we forgive them in society.
Well, you see, the way we see things, you see, you get to do something attractive. When we talk about the youth, it's so sad because when we talk about youth, sometimes we tend to think in terms of youth who are unemployed, who are there causing havoc. But we also have educated youth, employed youth. Take we own profession, the young lawyers. No matter what you will do, we get to understand, say, the way life is set up, it's like a relay race. One generation passes the baton over to another generation to continue the race. It depends on the speed with which you run the race. Now, ain't gonna make whoever take the baton from you continue. So here we are, we have a country, we have law school, we're training young lawyers. Who are their role models? These are going to be the future chief justices, attorneys general, parliamentarians, and on and on and on, judges. And yet, they too not get too many role models then. And these are the guys who are going to fill in the power structure, the vacuum. What are we doing in terms of educating? For example, what the gentleman talked about, someone will barely get a high school education, whether I pass the Becker exam or not, that person then a member of parliament. This is the difficulty about democracy. Because we have to be careful. It's a slippery slope. I think if people elect someone who doesn't have a high school education, it could be the people's choice. Because now the one that will get education, we get more knowledge than if we go run at the constituency way to run. The last time when we talked, someone called and talked about why don't we have primaries back home? And I commented that, that's a very interesting thought. Because primary, I'm getting back to the youth thing, but I'm just going back to the primary thing. Primary go cut down on corruption of some sort. At the top of political corruption, how do the political parties give political symbols? Because the power structure within that party there, and then go decide, say, well, Professor Kutubu, you can't be, we're not give you the SLPP symbol. We'll go give John Doe. Now, but with a primary, the big brass, they're not going to give the symbol to anybody. When I just run, like now on 20, the first 5, then and get a runoff. Whoever get the most votes, get the primary, get the symbol for that party day. That's not such a bad idea. But of course, it will be resisted by the power structure within the political parties because it interfere with the ability for not only be bribed on the side, but for get extraordinary influence in controlling the party. But now we therefore look at things that are workable. Not everything what we inherit from independence are relevant to today's activities. We therefore look at what is good for us and what is not good for us and try to begin to sift the good from the bad. And the problem in Sierra Leone is not as complicated as I see it. The problem is basic. Now, going back to the youth then, well, we have to have job training program. And when you train people in for job, there has to be an outlet for them to be employed or an inlet for them to be employed. You can't train them skills, then they don't get job. Then nothing is accomplished. So which means when they make you a Minister of Trade and Industry, part of your job now for go around the world and pull things then together for see how many industries you can bring to your country. But let me tell you one basic thing that Sierra Leone is just mind-boggling. Take, for example, if you were not a Sierra Leonean and somebody told you about a country called Sierra Leone, and you say, okay, let's go visit and see what this country looks like because you get some kind of attractive history about slavery or slave trade. You are an American or a Canadian or a German or a French person or a British person. You go to Australia. You, particularly if you are an American, when you arrive at Lunge Airport, till you arrive at Freetown the next day, you don't see anything symbolic of America. Will you be impressed with that country? What country in this day and age they try to develop? You not get no anything that is identifiable with the United States of America. There is no McDonald's. There is no Kentucky Fried Chicken. There is no Sheraton. There is no Marriott. There is no. But look at it the other way. If you arrive in that country there, you see Marriott Hotel sign. The first thing you go say, oh wow, I didn't know this country there is so up to date. There you see Holiday Inn. You know, there you see Sheraton. There you see Hampton. We act like for say we're not part of the world. And the symbolism of the United States in a country implies stability in that country. This is what encourages foreign investors to come in. So when you come with your millions of dollars, then you say, well, if Marriott can invest now, I feel safe for invest my millions. If Hampton can invest, if Hilton can invest, you know, I feel safe. Because these are world-renowned names. We have just divorced ourselves of all that kind of symbolism here, all of which contribute to backwardness. You know, I mean, it's nothing wrong to get Bintumani, to get Cape Sira. These are all a matter of national pride, but it doesn't take you into the realm of international attraction. Because if you talk about you want an investor to come to your country, and if me they come for, like, if I tell you, say I get a deal and I want to let you join me, or let you put your money there, I therefore make sure, say, I know how to sell that deal to you for feel safe, for put your money. So we will not make the country attractive to foreign investors. And we don't have the billionaires who can make the investment. So what are we doing? We're just spinning with wheels. We wheel the turn, but we don't go any side. So sometimes some of the approaches that we'll get is just a matter of simple common sense. You know, we are part of the world. And we must try to see ourselves within that context. As we begin to think, nationalism is great. But nationalism of itself, you see, this is what destroyed us. When I was growing up, we had SLST. Shaka Stephen came and said, what they call change them to Domingo. The change was not substantive, not just symbolic change. He rearranged everything, and began make political appointments, this and that. SLST had existed for about 100 years, way before Stephen came to power. And there were major employers in Kenema district, you know, na Tongofield. There were major employers in Yengama. They electrified the place. They did a lot of stuff. But what happened? When Stevens came, then they began to inject all this political appointment and this and that and everything. What happened? Everything collapsed. So the problem is ourselves. We are our worst enemies. And unless we change with thinking pattern, we are not going to go anywhere.
Right. Thank you so much. I want you the last question. This is in the area of international politics or foreign affairs. Because how many people they discuss foreign affairs? When you look at United Nations, we've done this since 1945. And just after World War II, the West don't deal with the menace of Mr. Hitler. And what about United Nations? Well, actually, not the League of Nations first, but when the League of Nations not succeed for prevent World War I, so they come up with United Nations things in there. So having been in existence, over 70 years or whatever it is, I want you to tell me your assessment of well, not even that. Let's now go to this. Leone take upon itself saying that they reform the Security Council of the United Nations. But sometimes I can almost laugh my sides off. That they for restructure the Security Council of the United Nations. But me, in American foreign policy, we know that any treaty we get negotiated before it become a law, you get to go through Parliament, you get to go through Congress. The Congress pass out. They go to the president. So, waiting at the possibility, Salone will able to negotiate or reform United Nations in such a way that an African country or a third world country get a permanent seat in the Security Council, and that become a law. What are the possibilities in that? How you look at it?
I see it as highly, highly unlikely. Because you to get a permanent seat at the Security Council, you have to have the clout it takes. Sierra Leone is, to me, it's like a football game. You get middle school football league, you get high school football league, you get at the top of American football, and then you get college football, then you get professional football. I like in Sierra Leone, with all due respect to the wonderful country that we're all struggling so hard to straighten out, but we are not there yet. And we'll not get that clout today. Let's say, even if by some chance they put you in, Do we really have what it takes to make the kind of impression that is required? There are people who have worked in the UN, we understand that, who are Sierra Leoneans. And God bless them. Some of them are doing the best they could. But we are here, we see the level of educated people with countries like America, Britain, Canada, Australia, on and on and on, then the same at the UN. In the UN, we are supposed to send not necessarily the best and the brightest, but the most experienced and the most knowledgeable. We don't necessarily get to be the best and the brightest. It's a matter of what you know, what experience do you bring on the job. So if all you've played is middle school football, then you think, say you're so good, you can go into professional football. God bless you until you get hit one time, and then you know that's way beyond your league. Sierra Leone, or even most African countries, and there are many more progressive African countries than Sierra Leone, starting from South Africa, and even Nigeria, and so many other countries. I cannot see what we can do, but one suspicion I've always had, I have always felt, and I have no evidence of it, but I just add from a practical aspect, the United Nations is being used just to manipulate most African countries, because this is being used by the powerful nations in the West. And they use the UN, give with some of them symbolic roles then here. So when they need, we vote. They not get for struggle for them, because all they get for tell, well, you didn't at the Security Council or you didn't at so don't forget it will be vote for you. In addition to, because I think I sent Mr. Kutubu one time a video about a lawsuit that was going to be filed in Nigeria by the Nigerian Attorney General against, I think it was Exxon or BP, I can't remember which one. And then they hired some investigative team for do investigation of the Attorney General of Nigeria, so he could be blackmailed. And then they find out for, say, he gets some corrupt practices, has been taking money under the table. So Nigeria was filing a $20 billion lawsuit then in Nigeria. But then when the AG was shown all the evidence with the dog gather of him, accepting bribes, accepting this, accepting that, he agreed for settle the case for $20 million, from 20 billion to 20 million. And that was even with bail for say, we not pull me secret in the door. So these people then get their own purpose. We are grateful for interacting with but the destiny of Africa and Africans is in our hands. Otherwise, if we don't try to see that path there and try to do what it takes, we are wasting time. There was a gentleman who called and asked about separation of powers, and he doesn't see a clear-cut separation of power. Well, to an extent, he's right. But those are some of the areas Sierra Leone needs to work on. Not everything in this country. We say things that we don't learn now. We would say if we get opportunity for implement some things like that, we're not going to implement it exactly as it is now. I am all in favor of an Attorney General being appointed by the court, by the president. But I think once the president does the appointment, and the Chief Justice, not the Attorney General, the Attorney General also, but the Chief Justice. The Chief Justice should be independent. It should not be changed. he should not be fired. He should serve. I don't believe in lifetime appointments for judges. I don't believe in it. I think it's inconsistent with the theory of democracy. And in democracy, nobody should get a life. If the president can be a lifetime appointee, nobody else should have a lifetime appointment. But I think a justice or Supreme Court justice should have a specific term, 7 years. Since we elections are every 5 years, so it always no go coincide exactly. So you appoint a chief justice, he serves 10 years. He's not going to serve at the pleasure of the president. So that gives him that sense of independence. And if he is good, he can be reappointed after 7 years. You know, because now I have the system back home, the president can change or dispose of the chief justice anytime he feels. So that is not a true separation of power at all. I don't think that's a smart thing. And parliament, the thing about parliament, democracy is not an easy thing. But you don't want to say people should have a degree to go to parliament. You don't want to say people should have high school education to go to parliament. I think there should be some qualifications like age and the ability to read, to be able to read, to do some simple reading. But I don't think, say, a democracy will require that you get a college degree before you represent people then, because that of itself can create another problem, because there are some intelligent people in the world, you know. But if you can't read better, or you finish high school, you can't read, you go run at the constituency, when you go to parliament, you go no say, you are in the wrong place. Well, if the parliament, they perform at optimum, you know, because when people get degree, when people and they think on their feet, and you just go there for show, you gonna say you not belong there. But how did that man get there? He got there because somebody else went for run against another constituency. They not take the time, not take the courage for run against her. Then the people they end up with wrong people. Now we job for educate them. We get for do we own them. Democracy can't be exactly as we learn from the British. They get for fit we own system.
Thank you. Yes, what you already do. I want you sum up everything we would discuss. But the question of summing up, because I want to wrap up by 11 o'clock, in the summer, you get about 10, 15 minutes for sum up. But okay, we get two calls them. No, then calls them. You know, now you can take for someone. First caller, I will say the call for waiting and name and welcome to the show, please.
Yes, good evening. Good evening. This is Bendo from Kansas City. Hello, welcome. Professor Kutubu and Mr. Shilon. Thanks so much for donated time and sacrifices. I don't mean for change the direction of this discussion tonight because we already learned a lot from Una. But I just want to ask a question tonight where they say some information or article they were on they see where they read on waiting make President Bio want lay then do this COVID-19 money where they come in, let them spend without any accountability or transparency. I mean, how difficult it is for waiting they come in for let them sit down and go through the due process for let things and be done correctly. We've been get problem with the Ebola funds. So why make now things and get for be different? I mean, is this not one of the problems then what would they talk about corruption? Now my question, this is what I want to ask tonight. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I love to see if we get any more. Let's see if we get another caller day night. That you will take some up and wrap up. Any more caller on the line, please?
Hello.
Yes, please.
Hello.
Yes, you're on the line. Yes, sir.
Yes, I still just call for buttress waiting have been talked because I don't listen we learned lawyer in contribution towards one day, especially about the Parliament in Sierra Leone. I'm more concerned with this because, like I say, Nainde represents the entire Sierra Leone population. Now, you just mentioned, say, like Sierra Leone, where they crave for let them get sit in the United Nations Security Council. Well, if they even go get what it take. The question, the same question I myself they ask, like waiting with constitution, current clause we did it for about the criteria when required, the requirements that way somebody forget for let it become a member of parliament. I agree totally that it is democracy, but democracy itself is about speaking the minds of the people. Now that we don't know at the time when they withdraw this constitution, and then clauses then they way they below standard for let somebody really able to articulate the interest of the people out there. And I want for even think that politicians in those days will cleverly do this, then do it with in mind or intention kind of, so that people, they will get a half-baked people with less information, with less power for articulate in the well of parliament, so that they're not able to know at all or able to do exactly what they're supposed to do. I'm saying as a deliberate attempt, because if really we don't get, like we already talk about the world being a global society right now, would that really go tell me, for example, like where Mr. Shilon just say, the people then saying like the kept in a parliament where it go there they turn to and not go know what to do. Then at this time, things go they happen right now in Salone, and we really expect Salone for grow. We expect parliament for engage in meaningful contributions, meaningful discussions for many countries move forward. And I bet on this. Until Sierra Leone gets a well-educated and informed parliament, where they talk about education and not they talk about PhD holders or whatever, like where Mr. Gilon said, at least let people let them raise the standard of education where somebody forget from that Becker level. Let them review that one day to an acceptable one where everybody know currently that it will be affordable. If somebody really wants to go to parliament, he will able to equip himself with that one day, so that it will be well informed in the parliament. It will able for do enroll. But if that parliament remain like this and the clauses remain like that, we will ever remain forget rubber stamp a parliament. We will ever remain forget a parliament where people they not engage in meaningful contribution. Instead, they will come out to report youth them and incite them out on the street for things where they're not able for doing a parliament. They incite them out on the street for jump out, for go and go into violence. Now this will see currently happen. Now it don't happen over the years. So me, I still insist that clause, that particular clause, we therefore talk about the requirements or qualifications of whoever when some want for going to parliament. Me, I really advocate for making them revisit that clause, for making the current trend of the current global trend.
Thank you very much. You get two more callers, before we wrap up. Thank you so much. As a matter of fact, Mr. Soviv and Dr. Soviv.
Yes. Hello.
Yes. Hold up, sir. Hold up, please. Hold up. I want to see Mr. Dr. Sovide on the line, because we get something we get for say about State House. If he on the line, he coming. Caller, just hold on 1 minute. That's if Dr. Sovide on the line. Because we get something on State House update, something like that way Fadima sent to me. But if you're not on the line, I'm a caller. Who's the call from? What's your contribution, sir?
Yeah. The call from Maryland. Actually, be on concern. I just want to tell we big brother thanks at least. Where they take time for do some kind so salient analysis. Where they pray to God at least so that God go give them the health and the long life. Yeah. So the whole issue actually now with regards to this constitution. We actually don't see previous regime, current regime, still just they play around this constitution, some violations them. We're not actually good, at least for the democracy. So may I just appeal, at least for us, especially diaspora, Lord will just find a way as to how we for really put a pressure what we government them for see how best they can able for review this constitution. Because without this constitution, trust me, any government will come today, they come with their own pattern, another government come tomorrow, then get their own system. We actually not good for democracy. You see, so maybe that's not my appeal, because things we don't pass previously and things the way they happen currently are not really nice for the democracy. Especially considering this kind modern age, they live so today, so disgraceful. You see, when they see where the leaders them, then they try for advocate for a seat in the Security Council. You can imagine what thing they happen now the countries them. So imagine how you go able to sit with people like Donald Trump. When them people here, they get all kind of information about your country. Where you they violate the rule of law, the human rights, all these things are so negative. You can imagine, Oda go even encourage, even all the African leaders them, where they even practice this dictatorship. You go sit down with Donald Trump, the Security Council, or maybe Canada, and all these other big France, all these kind of big leaders for advocates now. So at least sometimes when some of we can listen, some of them we can just they laugh. Because it not even make any sense. Okay. You see, so being a mere contribution now and day. I really tell we guess very I tell and thank you at least for the time where they even the spear for come, and they educate me. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay, here's the ruling. The ruling now is that that man and the last caller will expect Mr. Sovi will be part of we get an update because Fadima send notes to me say the one you update. So I want to take about 5-10 minutes let you sum up this because this program is done by 11 o'clock. I will not go over. I mean, I'll be extended to 11 o'clock. 10:30 is supposed to be done. So I just want to give a brief overview as you say goodbye to me, sir. Back to you.
Well, the gentleman will express concern about the inadequacy of qualification for certain people within a parliament and the need for maybe to require a more solid or stringent qualification. I mean, there is a remedy to that. In this country, in the United States, when people win, even locally from a state level and nationally, when they get elected to the House, whether a state house or the US Congress, they do go to some kind of crash course. Then they try, a lot of times on the national level, then they go to the Kennedy Institute of Government in Harvard, among some of the top universities where they go, and they take them there and they send them there and go learn the new role and the function of government. Okay, we can introduce something like that. So before people go to parliament go begin for talk, maybe we can get an Institute of Government na Frabe College, na Milton Magai, na Jala University, wherever, where political scientists can try to give them to prepare some tutorial for me to understand what in the role. Because sometimes people take their position for granted. I don't win seats in parliament, so I'm a parliamentarian. They do not realize that there are certain responsibilities that go with that position. I tried a lot of cases over the years, and I go send Mr. Kutubu some of the cases, some of the reported cases over the years. And one is not trying to brag, but me and my late cousin, one of my partner over the years, we make real contribution to the jurisprudence of North Carolina. Because anytime a lawyer appeals a case and you get a reversal on the issue of law, and that law becomes a reported case within the site, you've made some contribution, because 99% of lawyers, your case that you tried will never be appealed, and when you appeal them, there's a great chance you will lose and your case not going to be reported. But we have cases that we argue that became new law for the state of North Carolina and other lawyers in the site. I'm saying this because even judges, when people become judges, then they send in our Institute of Government, NIA, for me to learn, for say, now that you're a judge, it's just like me, if I become a judge anywhere. There are things I don't know as to how to carry out that responsibility that they're going to teach me before I take my seat on the bench. These are some of the things we have to take with time for learn. Because what is happening with brothers and sisters, they are more so on the paper qualification than the practical experience. So a lot of them come from all over, from America, from Germany, and this kind of thing, with zero experience. And they are given top-notch position. So they have the positions, they have the qualifications in the world, but they still can't do much because there is no experience to back it up. And then they're not going to hire competent staff for make them look good. And in the end, the country suffers from that. With Constitution, I have taken the position, I always say this, the Constitution itself, all the Constitution we write in Australia were badly written. Because first of all, I didn't grasp the significance of the Constitution. A Constitution, when you read Australian Constitution, then they talk about what citizens can do and cannot do. No, that's not what a Constitution is about. A Constitution is a piece of document that spells out the right of the citizens and restriction on the government with respect to those rights. A constitution usually is checks and balances on the government. But now we get it all jumbled up, that's Leone. We get into a constitution, what should be considered statutory law. They shouldn't be part of a constitution at all. A constitution is just a framework. It's like a sketch. It's like a skeleton, you know? But we get it all mixed up. And one of the reasons why we get it all mixed up, because we have all this Mr. Knows them, who never took a course in Constitution. We don't know anything about Constitution, but they claim they get all the big degrees in law. And they think that qualifies them to draw up Constitution. So until they go back to the drawing board, which is not late, and get the requisite qualified people, the input, we're going to have problems. You know, just like I pointed out the last time, even the current treason trial where they take place now in Australia, the law is talking about Her Majesty after 59 years of independence, the current treason law. The law, they talk about pounds, shillings, and pence, like the fines. The fine, they're going to fine you if they don't convict you to death. If they talk about pounds, who knows? People who are 50 years old, who are Salone and don't know anything about pounds, shillings, and pence. You know? So, and we educated lawyers there have not seen fit, Parliament has not seen fit to modernize and bring that law up to date. I mean, if I were the defense counsel, if I was part of the defense here on this current treason trial, now the whole law I go attack to start with. That is, you know, the thing itself is unconstitutional. And we'll take it from there. But you get a lot of people them way they are supposedly learned. I'm sure they know what they're doing. I wish them the best. But I think we need to go back to the drawing board. For those of us who are concerned about the current Constitution of Sierra Leone, It's poorly drawn. Or all the constitutions have been poorly drawn. They need to get a well-constituted committee of people who know what to do to put together a solid constitution who will lead that country forward. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. So I just want to give them your closing remarks now, and then we'll call the night off. I mean, we really touched on a number of things today. And what I do, I want to give you closing remarks within the context of how we can able to make sure, say, that I want to close up with this inordinate and protracted delays in, with court system over the crowd, they know they give judgment quick. Why, if we take them such X amount of years for their decision, the solution?
There is no reason for that. I mean, there is no justifiable reason in a country like Sierra Leone. I give examples. And I remember saying, once upon a time, I went to Sierra Leone, I meet with the Chief Justice. And I go call a name, may talk, I tell her. I say, look, I mean, I see any reason for the delays there of judgments that I have. First of all, then therefore restructure the rules. Judges should be required to get no more than 3 postponements, or not beyond 60 days at a time. And the case must be tried. That's one thing they can do. You know, if a lawyer comes, lawyers sometimes will get good reasons why they want the case to be postponed. Yeah, fresh request, maybe not going to get a strong reason, you can put the case off for like 60 days maximum. Next time, if you get a better reason than the first time, the judge should grant the request liberally. The third time should be the last time for that case to be put off. And remember now, I'm saying no more than 6 days at a time. So at the most, if the defense lawyer get 3 continuances or 3 postponements, it will be no more than a total of 6 months. That case day will be on a trial schedule. There is no reason why that cannot be done. There is no reason why judges are permitted to put cases off and off and off. There is no reason for cases to be put off for years. Like I said, in Wake County, where I live and practice, we get a courtroom 101. This is Wake County. I'm not even talking about the state of North Carolina. And Raleigh, where I live, is not the largest. Wake County is not the largest county, not the busiest county. Charlotte-Mecklenburg is the largest, and we are just the capital city. Okay, but the commercial city in North Carolina and Charlotte, North Carolina, we have we have several courts, traffic courts, this and that. We have one particular court called Courtroom 101. They dispose of a minimum, on average, 500 cases a day. Sometimes they dispose as much as 800 cases. Well, does Sierra Leone or the powers to be in Sierra Leone, are they interested in knowing how this is done? There are ideas. There are ways things can be solved. There are more cases in Wake County in 2 months than the entire Sierra Leone they get for 1 whole year. So if we can dispose of 800 cases in one courtroom, not a Sierra Leone case idea is not there for resolve. The ideas are there. These guys just don't want to do what it takes, because the powers to be, they are benefiting from the corruption, the delays, because it causes the poor people and for bribe. Before I wrap up, let me give you a good example. I don't know if I've ever mentioned. I once went to the Chief Justice in office. When I get up there was a bunch of people, ordinary citizens, just sitting there. Ordinary citizens. These are not lawyers anyway. Now, first thing that crossed my mind, I said, these people can't be here trying to see the Chief Justice, because what do ordinary people have to do with getting direct contact with the Chief Justice? Not even a judge. So I asked the secretary, I say, all them people are the Chief Justice. He said, yeah, they all wait for Siam. But won't you ask yourself, if ordinary people, they go to court for meet one-on-one with the Chief Justice, something is wrong. Because you did practice law in the state for years as a lawyer. You don't ever meet Chief Justice. Because you don't get nothing to do with them unless you get the case for argue before them. So how is the ordinary man in the street having access to a chief judge? What do they have to talk about? But this is how it is in Sierra Leone. And the same goes for the AG's office. Because I go to the AG's office too. You meet people sitting there, ordinary citizens. They come for see Attorney General. Why? Attorney General's office, only lawyers should be coming there and in staff. Or the CID people then, who that involves case. But ordinary people from the street walk to the AG's office, get appointment with them. Obviously, the logic is they want to go talk to Chief Justice, say, Pa, I got one case where it take 7 years, 6 years. Do you help me? And last but not least, I once had a conversation with another Attorney General, and I don't know what the system is. I have not checked into that. He told me they were trying to do away with the jury system. So I don't even know if they've done away with the jury system. That's Sierra Leone. And when I asked him why, he said to me, well, the level of education on the part of the jury there, very poor. So we think if we abolish them and get trial by judge alone, is better. You know, in my mind, I don't agree with him, but I was a guest, so I didn't take issue with him because I figured if we had met subsequently, I would have told him that's a bad idea. If they wait people away come at the time where people are not getting better education, felt a jury trial, a trial by your peers was important and fair and just. We ought to be ashamed for say 59 years later, we say, well, people not educated, well, for educate them all these years, for let them become well-informed, and then figure say the solution is to do away with the jury trial.
So all combined in the Magna Carta, or the extension of the Magna Carta?
This is the interesting thing about the Magna Carta, because this, I think so sometimes they even need for teach, well, lawyers, they need for take a course in British legal history. Now, let's remember, the Magna Carta was 1215 under King John. Under King John. Mm-hmm. When he and the barons then get tired of the excessive power of the king. Mm-hmm. And then say, you know what? They stood their ground and then they demand certain rights. This is how it all started. Then, of course, they were able for twisting arm, they give them the power. And then 1 year later, and King John changed his mind. He called the Pope and said the barons did not take advantage of him because for the power he gave them, want to take him back. But then he died in 1216.
Henry take over.
You know, then Henry now, Henry III, when Henry III kind of power, he look into it and they give the people more freedom, you know, and they keep the rights intact. So this is another thing. I'm glad you bring the Magna Carta. Sierra Leonean lawyers need to understand that the origin of American law is the British common law and the British history. So nobody has more heritage rights to the legal history of England than the United States. We are just way out there. But what we concerned about now, the pageantry, you know, the robe, the white wig, the red robe for judges, all of that is good if they value that so much. But let's put some substance into the profession too.
All right. So with that, I'll let you tell everybody good night. I may make you sure that it's always a pleasure for get somebody like you now with this, you know, kind of education we give in. And not say I will get the support of my colleague or my boss, Fadima Savage, who get stuck now, they call you for let they come for navigatory out of the rough terrain of the legal minefield. I believe say I get support on that. So I just want to say good night to everybody.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me on the show. I want to thank you, callers, them. You get very good, intelligent listeners and callers. The questions, they make sense, but I also sense deep sincerity on the part of the questioners, them. And I strongly encourage them for listening, for ask questions, for transmit some of the information here back home, call other people their attention, because this is the least we can do for our country. We're abroad, but I always want people to know that not all of us have turned our backs on the country. I mean, what makes America great is because they take advantage of talents. I wish our country can see the sense in tapping on people's talents and contribution. So thank you very much, Professor Kuroma. My condolences to Ms. Fadima Savage, and I hope everybody have a nice evening.
Thank you. And like you say, la accentuate that also. And we hope say Fadima will be back next week, and God will make and the rest of the family then go, go through this, accept and say that Allah in calling. And today, for know-how, I make we don't advance. Even we will not go to the masjid then, but through satellite, through communication, we pray and watch all the imams, all the spiritual leaders and Bokutenki for we, they step up, to the thing, they give you the address, the khutbah, the wise and everything, just okay. And I want to thank everybody that viewers, the entire viewers team, the management and staff, and above all, again, I say meet. I look forward to next week, so that Fadima will take back the anchor chair, and I hope I got power. We always get you now. Until then, you guys should get a very pleasant night.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.